Welcome to Out Loud Finally, a safe place to say the things you've been holding in. Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Katie, and if you are a returning listener, I'm so glad you've decided to come back. Today I have decided to touch on the do's and don'ts of supporting someone with mental health, whether that's during a crisis or a little blip, just anything really that requires some support from you or whoever really. I just want to make it very clear though that this isn't about placing blame on anyone. It's not me telling you, you're doing it wrong. It's just I'm aware that it can be really, really overwhelming and difficult to know where to even start with helping someone you care about. And it can be really overwhelming. And I think sometimes a lot of people, when they're supporting someone they care about, they keep it to themselves how overwhelmed they feel because you don't want to add on to the person that you're caring for. And that is so natural, but it's also important to remember that you matter too. And I find that most people want to help, but they worry about saying the wrong thing. And this episode is for the people who care but feel unsure on where to start or, are worried. And I think it's important to remember that a lot of people, when they are trying to help, they are really scared of getting it wrong. And I'm not saying that there is a wrong way to help someone, but what I am saying is there are some things that could help a little bit more that might not seem obvious but are really effective. So I'm going to start with the do's. So I think something that a lot of people jump to is giving advice, and that's completely natural. Like it's a human response, and there is, and some people want the advice, and that's absolutely fine. But I also find with a lot of people, it's about being heard rather than asking for advice. And silence and presence can be super powerful. I know sometimes for me, when I'm in a bit of a bad headspace, I know that there's nothing that someone can say that will take it away, but just knowing that they're with me and by my side, that lifts me up way more than any advice. Because 9 times out of 10, we know the advice. We know what we should and shouldn't be doing. We've heard it all before, So it's about having someone that can be your anchor rather than your advisor. And fixing it isn't the same as supporting. Not everything needs to be fixed in that moment. Not everything needs to have an answer or be clear. It's just about showing up and showing that you care enough to be there. You could, if you feel a response is needed, even saying things like, I'm here to listen, or you don't have to go through this alone. That is a really powerful place to start. And it's way more effective than saying, I would do this or I would do that. Because what we have to remember is everyone's brains works differently. So what might fix it for you might not fix it for somebody else. So instead of going on the comparison basis, go off of the I see you, I hear you, and I'm here with you. I know a lot in my life I've had people telling me what they would or wouldn't do in my position. and how they would change certain things and how they would go about certain things. And instead of it helping like they thought it would, it left me feeling worse because I wasn't in a place where I could do any of that. I was in a place of, I'm feeling really crap and I need someone to hear me and actually hear me, not sit there and tell me what I'm doing wrong and tell me how to fix it. I just needed someone to see that I was in pain and that that pain mattered. Another part of helping is you can still give validation without agreeing with negative thoughts. So, for example, I'm going to use the most basic thing here. If someone says, "Hey, I feel ugly today," by saying, "I completely hear you and I can understand why certain things might make you feel that way," you're validating that you understand that they feel that way. You understand that circumstances can push that narrative in someone's head, but you're not agreeing with it. It's about acknowledging someone's emotional experience rather than combating those thoughts. So, another example is, and this one's a bit of a deep one, it's, when someone comes up to you and they say, "I feel like I don't want to be here anymore." Straight away, our first response is always going to be, "You deserve to be here, you need to be here," and all of that. And that is okay. That's absolutely okay. But sometimes it's also about saying, "I hear you and I see that you're feeling that heavily right now. You're not agreeing with it. You're agreeing that they are experiencing it." So you can say things like, "That sounds really heavy," or "I'm glad you told me." Sometimes invalidating things can unintentionally increase shame. So again, we'll go back to the "I don't want to be here anymore." If you say to someone you shouldn't feel that way, even if you're saying it in a positive way and you mean positivity, they might take that and say or think to themselves, "They're right, I shouldn't feel this way, but I do. So now I'm ashamed. And now I'm not going to say it to anyone because so on and so forth." It can spiral. And sometimes we can say things with the best intentions, but if someone isn't in the place where they can understand the way you meant it, it can be disastrous. Sometimes all you have to do is ask. Ask how someone likes to be supported. Support is not a one size fits all. Some people do want advice. Others might want distraction. Others might just want silent presence. I like it when someone says to me, "What do you need from me right now?" Because it's both practical and powerful. It gives me the power to then think about, what do I need? And then it also takes the pressure off of the other person who's trying to do the supporting to come up with the support all on their own. And sometimes the way someone wants to be supported changes day by day. I know, and I'm so blessed. I have this incredible guy in my life. And every single time I've gone to him with a problem, he's been very, very good at not assuming what I need to hear or anything like that. It's sort of picking up on how I'm presenting myself in that moment of, I haven't asked for advice, therefore he doesn't give it, he just supports. And that is a very powerful, powerful thing. Always remember to be patient and consistent. healing is very, very messy for a lot of people, and progress can look like step back sometimes. So one day somebody could be feeling up to leaving the house when they haven't for a while, and they could go out and socialize for an hour, come home, and then the next day they might not feel like it. Now, to the outside, that looks like a setback, but in reality, it's still progress because they still went out. And it's important to always point that out, because it's so easy to beat ourselves up and forget that we have still made progress, even if today doesn't look like it. And small check-ins mean more than grand gestures. So, I mean, it's not the same for everybody, but from my own experience, both for myself and for many other people, it's made more of a difference having small check-ins every day of just saying, hey, how are you doing today? Rather than, I don't know, once a month showing up at someone's door as a surprise to check on them. Because at least every single day, that small consistency sticks. And that is by far the most beautiful feeling you can give to someone who is struggling, to know that they can rely on you to actually show up in the small ways that matter. Consistency feels safer than intensity, because you've also got to remember, when someone is struggling, it's very easy to become overwhelmed in that state. And one big grand gesture that is intense, it might make them feel almost euphoric in the moment, but then once that is over, people can crash because they've had such a high and they haven't felt that high for a while, that when it disappears, it just they feel drained. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the don'ts. So like I said before, for some people, trying to solve the pain can sometimes make someone feel really misunderstood, because ultimately you cannot remove someone's struggles, but you can stand beside them during it. And I find that when you are like trying to solve it, it almost gives off the impression to the other person that, well, I'm thinking of all of these things, so why can't you? And, you know, to the average person, you might not think like that, but there are people in this world that do. I know that I am one of them. When I am in a very negative headspace, I cannot see past that in a way. And someone trying to throw advice and fix it for me makes me feel powerless and useless. And I genuinely believe that a lot of people feel that way. It's just scary to say it, because you understand that someone's trying to help and they have the best intentions. And that's why you keep it to yourself, because you don't want to upset anybody. Please, please, please never minimize or compare struggles. For you, it might seem like you're trying to make them feel better, but saying things like, everyone feels like that sometimes, it can genuinely make the situation 10 times worse, because basically what you're saying to them in that moment, unintentionally, is that, well, everyone feels that way, so why is it a big deal for you? And absolutely, most people, when they say it, they do not mean it like that, although there are some pretty questionable people that probably do. But 9 times out of 10, when those words are said, it's with the best intentions, but it can land horribly, absolutely horribly for people, and it can be devastating. And other phrases like others have it worse, again, you might be trying to remind them of the positivities they have in their life and the great things. But the issue is, when you're in a bad headspace, you don't magically forget those positive things. You still know that they exist, you just don't feel them. So saying others have it worse, you almost make that person feel selfish for how they feel, and like they are wrong to feel that way. It can essentially make people shut down emotionally, and that's the last thing we want. Another one is forcing positivity. It can be helpful when it feels natural, but forced positivity can feel dismissive. So you don't need to make someone feel better to make them feel supported. If someone comes to you with a problem and you say, yeah, I know you've got that going on, but hey, in a few months' time, you're doing this, so look forward to that. I can see what you're trying to do. Everyone can see what you're trying to do. But underneath the surface, that's just sending out a message of, why do you feel that way? You shouldn't feel that way. You have this. Like, what, you know? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why that could be detrimental to someone in that moment. Another thing that I want to stress, so importantly, wrong word, deeply, is please do not take withdrawal personally. A lot of people that are struggling, they tend to pull away, and it's often not a reaction to you. It's about the overwhelming feeling that they are experiencing. It's not that you were doing anything wrong. It's not that they don't like you. It's none of that. It's the fact that sometimes even having a basic conversation can feel really tiring and really overwhelming. And it is hard. It is very, very hard when you're trying to support someone and you can feel them and almost see them drifting further away from you. And it can feel like, I'm not doing enough. I need to do this. I need to do that. But please understand that it is not your responsibility, for starters. And secondly, sometimes that is just how people cope. And a lot of people, I find, they need space. And it's nothing to do with the people around them. They still adore those people, but they just can't handle it in that moment. I'm going to give some examples of things that have helped me personally. I don't know if they help other people. I know when I've used my experiences with the people I care about, it's been pretty successful. But yeah, and before I ramble on, so something that really helps me, I touched on before a little bit, sometimes just sitting beside me and just letting me know that that person's there is the most powerful thing ever. It makes me personally feel like I'm not alone and I don't have to explain myself in that moment. I don't have to spill all my dirty little secrets. They're just there because they want to be there. Other things that have helped me, someone, I don't know how to explain it. Someone, I guess, just showing up in a way that feels authentic. So I dislike when I am visibly not doing well and you're not even asked if you're okay. And then all of a sudden, when you make it clear that you're not okay, that's when they ask. So I always find what's most effective for me is the second you notice someone's vibe might be off, Don't be scared to ask. Doesn't mean that they'll tell you the truth. It doesn't mean that they're ready to talk about it, but showing up before prompted shows that you are someone that they can come to. Because if you're willing to show up without the little hints, without basically being pushed to ask, they know that when they are ready, so are you. There's a few things that people have said to me in the past as well with good intentions, but they actually really hurt. Things like, and I feel like a lot of people might relate to this, I don't know. But say, for instance, I've said to someone in the past, I feel fat today. And the response I got was, you're beautiful. Now, the intentions are good, and to somebody who maybe hasn't dealt with those thoughts before, they won't see it like this, but it's just my experience. And if it's somebody else's, I want them to know that it's not just them. What I took from that is, oh, so you can't be beautiful and fat. And that alone was a very bad thought for me at the time, because I saw myself in that way. And there was nothing that anyone could do that was going to take that away. So instead of just looking at myself as I'm fat, I was looking at myself as I'm ugly because I'm fat. And you can see how that can spiral. And I feel like that's probably way more common than even I realize. And it's really hard to tell someone who said something with amazing intentions that actually what they said has hurt. Because number one, you don't want to seem sensitive. And number two, you don't want to seem ungrateful. Because ultimately, like I said before, it's no one's responsibility to be there for anyone. And I know people will disagree with that, but it really isn't. We're not put on this earth to be responsible for other people's feelings. And I think that's something we all need to learn. I know it's taken me a very long time to learn that. But I just think we have to be careful. Probably more careful than we would like to be, but sometimes it's about swapping places with someone and thinking, what would I want? What would I want to hear in this moment? What would I like? I think something that I wish people understood more during these moments is that no one chooses to feel the way that they feel. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, do you know what, today everything is going to hurt. And people are going to have to walk on eggshells around me and pick the right things to say. That it isn't a choice. And it is very, very difficult to live with. And a lot of people can end up pushing the people they care about away because they don't want to feel like a burden. They already feel like that you've put your life on a pause for them. They already feel like you're carrying everything for them, even if you're not. Even if you don't even know, I can guarantee you that if someone is silently dealing with it, they are still feeling like they're a burden. And it's so easy. I know for a lot of people, I've dealt with it a lot. When people say, well, just move on, just be happy. I can promise you, if it was that easy, no one would be depressed. No one would feel anxiety. But it isn't as easy as flicking off a switch and not thinking about it. And however difficult it feels for you to support that person, please be mindful that it's a lot more difficult to live with than it is to support someone with. And that's not me taking away from the stress that someone is under for feeling, well, we're not feeling, but supporting someone, because it is extremely, extremely stressful. And it can also affect people's own mental health when they're in that position of caring about somebody who they can visibly see is struggling. But I think a lot of frustration can build around the fact that for a lot of people, they can think that they're doing everything that they can and they're doing everything right, but nothing's changing. And I've seen it and I've been there. Frustration does build and resentment can build as well because we get so blindsided. And it can be very scary for both parties when that happens. But I think we all need to remember that it isn't a choice. It isn't something that can be fixed overnight. And if you are going to step into that battle with them, because it is a battle, it is one of the hardest battles. If you are going to say to someone, I'm going to be here every step of the way, please make sure that you can mentally do that. Because there is nothing worse than stepping into a battle thinking you've got someone for them to walk away later down the line. It is okay to say, I don't think that I can support you through this because I am not able, I guess, to meet your needs. That is okay, because in that moment you're protecting yourself and you're protecting the other person from disappointment. But that changes a lot if you're ages down the line and then you decide, I can't do this. So please understand that you need to be 100% sure that you can deal with it before making that commitment. I hope I've made sense in this. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat meowing. I usually have a script, but today I wanted to do it unscripted, so it felt more authentic. But yeah, I want to speak directly, I guess, before I close this out. I want you to know that trying already matters more than perfection. You are already doing enough by trying. Please make sure that you look after yourself as well, because you can't help someone else if you're not looking after yourself, and you matter too. And if you are the person that's struggling, please know you are not too much to support. You deserve support, and you are worth supporting. I know a lot of us who have struggled, we have lost a lot of people, and that can fuel the thoughts of, I'm just too much. But I promise you, it's not that you're too much. It's the fact that other people are just not emotionally mature enough to deal with our emotions. And that's okay. They don't need to be. The power to heal has always and will always be within you. I'm so glad you are here today. Please let me know if you prefer scripted episodes or unscripted. I'm sorry if I've rambled a lot in this video. But I guess that's just what I wanted to do today. I wanted to try something different. I'm going to try and add like a little closing message as well. Please be kind to yourself above everything else. You don't have to be perfect to be enough. So I guess that's a little Katie's wisdom for the day. Anyway, thank you for being here. Until next time, keep saying things out loud, finally.